John chapter 13, places that will change your life, specifically this one, at the feet of others. Very quickly, had a long conversation Sunday night after services, and I had one that afternoon. Look, number one, as far as from the pulpit, I've through with my discussion of Jesus in the Old Testament. I'm still working through some things anyway. Main things I want you to remember, number one, it's not a faith divider, all right? I'm not going to disfellowship you if we have a disagreement on this conversation. Number two, it's something to be studied and considered. Number three, listen very carefully. When the Father speaks, God speaks. When the Son speaks, God speaks. When the Holy Spirit speaks, God speaks. That's the thing we go to Scripture with. That's the thing that we have to understand. God is God. They are a triune. They are in complete unity together, and they carry the same authority when they speak. John chapter 13, this was something that was assigned to me at PTP, and it was a textual study, so I went through John 13. Loved the way they approached it and the way they allowed me to approach it. So we're going to work through it. Verse 1 of John chapter 13. Now before the feast of the Passover, Jesus, knowing that his hour had come, that he would depart from the world to this Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. It's time to leave. The cross is growing in size as he approaches it. Verse 3 said he had come forth from God and he was going back to God. John bookends this introduction to this story with this keynote. It is time for the work that Jesus is doing on earth to come to an end. And so this is one of the final times that he is going to have these guys' undivided attention, at least on this side of Calvary. And he has to key in on it. The shadow is looming. He only has a few steps left that, in a sense, he controls. Someone else will be leading him. Remember in chapter 21, after the resurrection, when he and Peter are having that conversation on the seashore, and he said, Peter, the time's coming when you're no longer going to lead your own steps. Someone's going to bind your hands and lead you where they want you to go. That's kind of what's going on with Jesus. He knows where this ends, and he knows he is going to be arrested, and someone else is going to guide his steps. And so John is driving the point home when he says he's about to leave. He loved them to the end. This moment was approaching, and he's anticipating it. He is driving home the fact that something big is coming, and that the reader needs to key in and see what that something is. Because you see, Jesus has to seize the moment. He has to make the most of the time. There's a quote in Goblet of Fire where Harry realizes that when you dread something, when you do not want to face a moment, that time seems to disappear in giant chunks. And it gets there much faster than you want it to. You think about it. He's only had 3+ years with these guys, and it's already coming to an end. He's had to cover a lot of ground. He's had to do a lot of teaching, and he's got to shove a lot of things in these last few moments. This moment, the moment in John chapter 14, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. He's got so much going on, and so he's going to seize this moment. He's going home, but he loves these guys. He wants to leave them prepared. In fact, Luke's account says of this moment, he greatly desired to celebrate this Passover with them. He needs them to understand that he is going to become the Passover lamb. He needs them to understand how much he loves them and how that translates into how they act in this world. So A, how do you make the most of the time? B, what are the last few lessons you want to teach them? Jesus. And so verse 2, John goes on, during supper, the devil having already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, to betray him. You're Judas for just a moment in your mind. and you are sitting at the final Passover that you're going to celebrate with your rabbi. Are you looking at the floor hoping no one notices you? Just kind of trying to blend in? Are you overcompensating? Or are you trying to be the life of the party so nobody suspects you of anything? I don't know. He may be cracking jokes, or he may be hiding. I know this. He's plotting and planning. The moment is here. Satan has already convinced him that this is the course of action. And he's looking for the moment. John goes back to it though. Jesus, knowing he's going home, knowing that the Father had handed all things over to him, that he's been given total authority at this moment. Very Matthew 28, all authority has been given to me in heaven and in earth. All things have been handed over him. He had come forth from God and he was going back to God. He knows, watch the wording, that these last few lessons are his choice. Everything is in his hands. How he handles these final moments with the 12 is up to him. What last lessons are you going to teach? And so he is about to make a statement. He is about to have a statement moment in their presence. He got up from supper. And he laid his outer garment. He took that outer robe, that outer cloak off, and he laid it aside. And he took a towel and he tied it around himself. Listen to me. He just stood up in the middle of the Passover feast. This is Oriental style seating, remember? They are sitting on the floor. They are reclining on each other. And when he sits back down again, the text says John reclined on him. So we have no indication that John's not already reclining on him. But this is not just to push your chair back, stand up. He is having to disrupt the people around him. He is drawing attention to himself so that all eyes are on him. And we know it's the case that they're at least sitting on the floor and reclining because verse 12 tells us he reclined again. So he is disrupting what is going on. And this is a huge moment. This is Passover. This is one of the key moments in the Jewish year. When they remember what happened in the Exodus, when they remember that God passed them over, when they remember that God protected them. And Jesus is now backtracking in the middle of this feast, and he's backtracking to feet washing. Feet washing is a before dinner exercise. It is a when you come in the door moment exercise before you go sit at the table. And it should have been one of them. He's rabbi. He's master. He's Lord. It should have been one of them. So many images come to mind. The woman at Simon's house when it should have been Simon washing his feet. And the woman comes in and anoints him with tears and wipes his feet. The Pharisees jockeying for position at the table. And he said, be careful where you sit, because what if somebody bigger and more powerful comes into the feast and you have to get up and move. And so you can almost see the disciples jockeying for position as they come in the door. Maybe they're too busy. Or maybe they just think they're too important to wash feet. Whatever the case is, they have not washed feet. They have broken a cultural tradition and sat at the table with dirty feet. Reclining on each other means your feet are out that way and they're having to sit beside each other's dirty feet. It's part of the reason it's so important that they wash it when they come in, because when you sit down in a meal, you don't want somebody's feet, dirty and nasty from walking the dirt streets, sitting right by your plate. And Jesus moves to the sideboard. He's removing that outer garment and he's tying a towel around his waist. Listen to me. This is not a pass the bread moment. This is a major interruption to a formal meal. And I guarantee you every eye is on him because he is disrupting everything. I promise you there's nothing but crickets in the room. All the jokes have died. All the comments about the last week have died. All the discussion about plans for what's going on. Alabama's schedule just left the table. Oklahoma's schedule. They're not discussing anything because Jesus has done something that you don't do. He has stood up in the middle of the Passover and he's put a towel around his waist and he is standing at the sideboard. No punchlines to the jokes. It says, then he poured water. Poured it into the basin and began washing the disciples' feet. Wiping them with the towel which he had tied around himself. Now we're not told how many he washes before he gets to Peter, and we have that little interruption. But what we do know is he's going to get to all of them, and he's washing feet. Lord, Master, Rabbi, on his knees at their dirty feet. And he's drying them, and then he's moving to the next. And he's working his way around the table. And he's going to get to them all. He's going to get to Peter's, and we're going to have that interruption. He's even going to get to Judas. All eyes are on him. This is a statement moment. That is why verse 2 that says Satan had already entered Judas's heart. That's why verses 10 and 11. It's why verse 18. It's why verses 21 through 30 are so powerful, so breathtaking. Because he not only knows who's going to deny him, he is identifying him. He's calling him out. He's throwing barbs at Judas's heart to try to get his attention. And he's working his way around the table. I don't know. If I'm Judas, I'm tucking my feet underneath me. I'm looking for the door. I'm trying to find a way out of this because I'm about to betray this man. So he came to Simon Peter. Simon Peter. Peter is Peter. He's Peter everywhere he goes. He cannot help but be Peter. Lord, you're washing my feet? Let me clarify. Let me understand what is going on. You have gotten up from the table. You have paused the Passover feast to wash my feet. Did I get that right, Jesus? And Jesus said, not really. That's not what it's about. He said, what I am doing, you do not realize right now. So it is more than just the physical act of washing feet. But you're going to understand it. Peter, you'll get the point at some time. It'll finally register on you when you slow down being Peter and you listen and you let me explain. But Peter can't hold his tongue. Never. No way, Jesus. Doesn't matter that I didn't wash your feet like I was supposed to. You're not washing my feet. If I do not wash you, you have no place in me. Peter's doing Peter things. He doesn't know what else to say. He can't imagine this moment. And I cannot imagine the self-control required for Jesus not to roll his eyes at this moment. Peter, are you kidding me? Seriously, to me, anybody watch NCIS where Gibbs, every time you say something stupid, walks by and pops you on the back of the head? This is a Gibbs moment. The self-control. Peter, stop talking. Just listen for a minute. If I stood up from the table to make this point, just hang on and let me make the point. Then you can get it. Lord, then wash not only my feet, but my hands and my head. Peter, stop talking. Stop saying Peter things. Just be quiet. Peter, you still don't understand. If you've bathed, you only have to wash your feet. Otherwise, you're completely clean. You're clean. And then right in the middle of this, not all of you. Peter, you rein it in. You'll get the point sooner or later. Now then, through dealing with you, let me toss a barb to Judas's heart. You're not clean, Judas. There's more than feet going on here. You're not clean. And it just bounces off. He's hardened his heart and Satan's there and he just bounces off. No response from Judas. Because he knew. Jesus uses that. It is a barb intended for Judas, and I know that because of the next verse. He knew the one who was betraying him, and it's for that reason that he said, not all of you are clean. He just puts it out there. One of you is going to betray me. One of you is not clean. The magnitude of what he's doing as he's washing their feet, including Judas. He is washing the feet for the one that is about to walk out the door to betray him. And he knows it. And he does it anyway. Is this not a moment? Is this not a huge moment? Then, when he had washed their feet and taken his garments and reclined at the table again, he said, Do you know? Do you know? Did you get it? What I have done for you. All right, Peter. You're always wanting to have the answers. I'm going to ask the question and open the table up. Give me the answer. Can you get this? Do you realize what just really happened? Sure, Jesus, you washed our feet. Hey, Matthew, finish your joke. Hey, let's finish the discussion about the ball games yesterday. Because that's all it was to Peter, was a feet washing. And so Jesus continues because he knows Peter doesn't have the answer. You call me teacher. You call me Lord. Absolutely correct. I am. He's reading their minds. He is reading the room. He knows they don't get it. Focus, guys. Focus. This is not so much about washing feet as it is what? It's about true leadership. It's about who the one leader in the room is serving. It's about leadership being service-oriented. It's about humility. It's about putting others in front of yourself. It is about the Son of God, the Lord, the Rabbi, the teacher, the Creator, the all-everything, Colossians chapter 1, kneeling down and washing Judas's feet. I'm going to serve you all the way to the end, Judas, and try my best to reach you. Remember the conversation in the garden that's going to take place just a little later in the night? Not enemy, do you betray me with the kiss, but friend? You're my friend, Judas. You're still my friend, even though I know you're about to walk out the door. I'm going to wash your feet. And there's a key in this. I am. I am. He's used it in front of them before. So, I got to stay with me. Listen to me. He says, so, if I, the Lord and the teacher, washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. If I did that, Jesus said, what does it tell you? If I can humble myself to the point that I wash the feet of my own disciples and my betrayer, what does that tell you? But he understands, Jesus being Jesus, being the master of the room and of the heart. You're still not getting it, are you? You should have been doing this for each other. You should have been willing to set aside your pride. Set aside your argument, James and John, about who's the greatest in the kingdom. Set all of that aside. You should have washed each other's feet. I gave you an example, so that you also would do just as I did for you. Truly, truly, I say to you, a slave is not greater than his master, nor is the one who is sent greater than the one who sent him. You're not greater than I am. I'm the one sending you out. So I'm setting an example. You should be doing the same. You should be washing feet, and here I am washing your feet. And he just dropped another reminder that, back to that verse, I am. I'm God in the flesh. I'm Emmanuel. You're not greater than me. Here it comes. Here it comes in the text. This is the whole point. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. I want to let you understand something, because there's a cultural thing that gets wrapped up in this. And you know, we have those in the religious world. They're like, hey, we got to be feet washed. This is not about washing feet. And I am so thankful that it's not. All Jesus has done was take a cultural example that it was at hand to make a powerful point about service. He's not making a point about washing feet. He's about getting down on your knees and doing whatever needs to be done for the other person, including the one who may betray you. He's talking about leadership that comes through humility and service. He said, you want to find a blessing? You want to find a meaning in life? Get out of yourself and do something for someone else. Make a difference in somebody else's life, and you'll get the blessing. It will change the course of your life. For the sake of time and space, we're going to roll some things together. Verse 18. Judas, can you look me in the eyes? I've already warned you that I know you're not clean. Can you look me in the eyes? Verse 19, we get another I am statement. Verse 20, we get in this together, verses 21 through 30. And they're almost this meanwhile back at the ranch moment. It's kind of an interlude, but it's so powerful and it's so huge and it's so standalone. All eyes are on me, Jesus says, and it's one of you. What I mean by that is the point Jesus is making about service and the blessing that comes through service. He pauses in that thought for just a second. And he goes back to the betrayal thing. When are you going to betray me? And the text, and if you put all the texts together of this Last Supper, who, me? Who is? No way it's me. And John's leaning back on Jesus, and Peter, being Peter, says, surely you know, John. Tell us who it is. I don't know who it is. I'll ask. But I don't have any idea who it is. And they're looking at each other. And in this account, Jesus says, let me show you. Watch that text. Let me show you. I'm going to dip my hand in, and I'm going to hand it to this man. How thick can you possibly be if you're a disciple? They do not tackle this man when he goes out the door. They don't jump on him. I'm going to identify him for you, and then I'm going to tell him to go take care of his business. And not a single one of them gets it. How thick can you be? And finally, he's tried. He has tried to reach Judas. So in 27 through 30, he says, look, just go. Now, I've reached the point in this struggle where I need this to take the next step and go on. Just go. Judas is gone, and Jesus returns to the lesson. What does that indicate? That indicates that as much as he tried to reach him, the rest of this lesson's not for Judas, because he didn't get it. He's not interested in serving. He's not interested in humility. So he lets him go on, and he goes back to the lesson, and he's hammering it home with these guys. This is about service. This is about me being the most important man in the room, and I'm teaching you the lesson. I am glorified. Look at me. Verse 33, look at me. I'm only here for a little while longer. You guys aren't going to see me anymore. Listen to me. Watch how I act. Watch how I treat you. Watch how I treat people. And listen to what I'm telling you, because I have to leave. So verse 34. Love. But I need you to learn to love with the love with which I have loved you. Service-oriented, putting you first, doing things for others, love. That's why I did this. That's why on the most important night of my life, I interrupted the Passover to wash your feet, so that you would get that that is what I'm sending you in the world to do, that I'm serving and you have to serve. And then verse 35. Watch verse 35. How you love each other is the proving ground for those who were watching. By this they will know that you are my disciples. Not because of verbal testimony, even though that's important. Not because some of them are going to have to stand and die for their faith. That's important. Not because they're going to write the rest of the New Testament, including Paul getting involved, even though that's important. He said, you want the world to know who you are? Wrap a towel around your waist and serve somebody else. And then 36 through 38, Peter, let me go with you. You're leaving, Jesus. I can't stand the idea of you not being here. Let me go with you. No, it's not time, Peter. In fact, Peter, man, you're going to deny me. You're going to deny me before you finally get it, but you're going to get back up. And this is it, Peter. You're going to remember this moment. And it's going to change you. The place that changes you is at the feet of others, and you're going to learn to serve. This is a prelude to John chapter 21. Peter, do you love me? Tend my sheep. Peter, do you love me? Tend my sheep. Peter, do you love me? Tend my sheep. Learn to serve. Jesus sets that moment up on the night of his betrayal. Service is life-changing for us. It changes how we see people. When we are at the feet of others who need something and we are doing something about those needs, suddenly our needs shrink. And our focus on ourselves shifts to someone else. And we realize it's a privilege. It is an honor to do what Jesus did. It's where we get our blessing. And it's where we, for lack of any other way to say it, make our mark on those who are watching our lives. We use that phrase all the time. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Jesus said it in a little bit different language, but he said, they're going to tell that you're my disciples by the way you treat each other. By this will all men know. A new commandment I give you, that you love one another as I love you. Love in such a way that serves, and it will change your life. It will change the life of the people around you. And it will make the gospel that we preach mean more, because they will see that it has changed us. I came across a book title recently, and the question asked in the book title was, why don't Christians look more like Christ? I thought, wow. I said, well, the answer to this morning is because we're human. We want to be the big dog in the room every time. We want somebody else to do the serving. My kids looked at us in Bible class, at Austin and me this morning in Bible class, and says, how does Pharaoh keep letting this happen to his people? And the answer is Pharaoh has to be the biggest dog in the room. Pharaoh cannot give God the glory. And it cost him. And it cost everybody around him. Until we get it, until we get this moment of what's happening on the night before he dies, we're not going to look like Christ. And the world's not going to identify us as his. So back to the title. At the feet of others, places that change us. Make a difference in someone's life this week, and see what a difference it makes in your life and what a difference it makes in the way people around you see you. That man that washed feet that night is the Son of God. He's I Am. He's Emmanuel. And He's going to leave that room. He's going to pass through the garden, and He's going to go die for our sins. The greatest one to ever walk the face of this earth died for the sinner. Please let that change you. Please let this moment change you. And if you've not obeyed the gospel, now is the time, because your Savior has set the example of everything we're supposed to do. From service to dying to self on the cross. If you need to obey the gospel this morning, please come as we stand and sing.